In this session, we are going to see about the Unit 4, the amendment procedure and emergency provisions. Okay. So, first let us see about the amendment procedure. As we all know that our constitution is the flexible constitution, so it can be amended at any time based upon the necessity of the country. So when there is a necessity in the country, it can be modified, it can be amended, it can be shut down based upon the situation of the country. In case if at the time of enacting the constitution, the situation is different, and now the situation is different. So that is the reason why, while bringing this constitution, there is a procedure. Even the amendment procedure is also dealt in the constitution in order to make it more flexible to the people according to the situation of the country. So we are going to see about the procedure and amendment procedure. What are all the conditions to be followed while amending the procedure? These are all the things we are going to see in this session. Okay. So to evolve and change with all changes in the society and environment. An environment is a necessity for every constitution. The makers of Constitution of India were fully aware of this need. As such, while writing the constitution, they also provided a method of its amendment. Further, they have decided to make the constitution both rigid as well as flexible. They laid on a flexible amendment method in respect of its some parts, and for several others, they provided for a rigid method. Okay, for some parts it is flexible, and for some parts it is rigid. Flexible, like if it is not violating the fundamental right, so it can be amended by getting a 2/3 majority from the parliament, and it can be amended. But when you take a fundamental right, it cannot be. It can be amended, but without violating the basic structure. So it is a rigid method. So it cannot be amended just like that. So while writing this constitution, even the amendment procedure is also described in the constitution. Okay. So what are all the methods to be adopted in order to amend the constitution? Okay. So in order to amend the constitution, Article 368 says about the amendment procedure. Okay. So the first thing is like amendment by 2/3 majority of parliament. So in case if the parliament decides to amend any article, so the bill has to be placed before both the houses, before the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha, and it should get a minimum of, at least it should be approved by 2/3 majority of its total member, including the vacancy as well as including the vacancy post in the parliament, right? So most part of the constitution can be amended by this method. Under this method, the constitution can be amended by the union parliament alone. So you should always keep in mind that amendment can be made only by the parliament. That too by getting a approval from the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha. For this purpose, an amendment bill can be passed by each of the house of union parliament by a majority of its total member, that is absolute majority, and by a 2/3 majority of its members present and voting in each house. It is a rigid method insofar as it prescribes a special majority for amending the constitution, but it is considered to be a flexible method because under the union parliament alone can pass any amendment. The second one is like amendment by 2/3 majority of the parliament plus ratification by at least half of the several state legislature. And Article 368 says that the first thing is like the first rule is that amendment can be made by getting a 2/3 majority from the parliament. So it is not sufficient that only 2/3 majority alone is not sufficient. Even at least half of the several state should ratify the amendment bill passed by the parliament. At least, like for example, if there is 100 states, at least 50 states should ratify the bill passed by the parliament. So that is what subclass 2 says about it should be ratified by at least several states, half of the several states. So in respect of some specified provisions of the constitution, very rigid method of amendment has to be prescribed. In respect of this amendment making involves two stages. So there are two stages. First, the amendment bill is to be passed in both houses. So like the bill should be placed before both the houses, before the Lok Sabha and as well as the Rajya Sabha, and 2/3 majority, including present members as well as the member who's having the voting right, will also be taken into consideration. The first procedure is like it should be placed before the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and it should be accepted by 2/3 majority. The second procedure is first the amendment bill is to be placed by both the houses of the Union Parliament by a majority of total membership and a 2/3 majority of members present and voting in each session. Secondly, after the amendment bill has to secure a ratification at least half of the several legislature. Only then it gets finally passed and incorporated as a part of the constitution when the president puts his signature on the bill. So the first stage is like it should be accepted by 2/3 majority of the members of the parliament. Second one is at least it should be ratified by half of the state, and then it should be signed by the president in the bill. So this is the two procedure that a parliament has to follow in order to amend any bills. Let us see the kinds of amendments. So the first kind is like by simple majority of parliament. Okay. So many provisions in the Indian constitution can be amended by simple majority of two houses of parliament outside the scope of Article 316. Thus provides includes admission or establishment of new states. So simple majority can be this method can be followed in case if the amendment is relating to establishment of new states. If the parliament is going to establish any new states, or if the existing state is going to be divided into two parts, this simple majority can be adopted by the parliament. The second thing is like formation of new states and alteration of areas, boundaries, or name of existing states. In order, like you can take this Telangana, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. So like even the parliament can follow the simple majority procedure in order to name, in order to fix any name for new states, or for extending the boundaries of the state, even for the alteration of areas. So this can be adopted by the simple majority procedure. The third one is like abolition or creation of legislative council in state. Even like in case of the parliament is going to abolish or to create any legislative council, even it can be even the simple majority can be made for abolition as well as for the creation of legislative council in the state. The second schedule emoluments, allowments, privileges, and so on of the president, the governors, the speakers, judges, etc. Even the simple majority can be followed for emolument, like giving us retirement or any emoluments, like house rent allowance, like this, or in case if the in case if it is relating to increment of salary for the president, for the governor, for the speakers, and also for the judges, the simple majority can be adopted. The next thing is like quorum in parliament. Quorum is nothing but at least it should consist of minimum number of 3. So at least 3 members should present in the parliament in order to pass. At least like it is the minimum qualification. So when there is a 3 members in the parliament, it constitutes a quorum. So there should be a quorum, and the salary allowance of the members of the parliament, even the simple majority can be adopted for the salary as well as for the allowance of the members of the parliament. It is not only for the judges, it is not only for the governor, president. Even the simple majority can be adopted for the members of the parliament also. And rules of procedure in parliament. The amendment bill can be made for the rules of procedure in Parliament, privileges of Parliament, its members and its committee, use of English language in Parliament, number of punis judges. Punis judges is nothing but the low rank judges. Okay, so the comparing to the regular judges, punis judges are the judges who is under the the low rank judges. Like in order to increase the punis judges or in order to decrease the punis judges or the salaries relating to punis judges. So everything can be decided by adopting the simple majority system. The second one is by a special majority in Parliament. So if it is if anything is relating to language or anything relating to salary or anything relating to procedure, the simple majority can be adopted. But if it is relating to any major provisions, in case if the Parliament is going to amend any major provisions, the Parliament can adopt this special majority of Parliament. So the special majority, the majority of the provision of Constitution need to be amended by a special majority of the Parliament. In case if the Parliament is going to amend the majority of the Constitution, so it cannot follow the simple majority system. So it should adopt the special majority of Parliament. That is majority that is more than 50% of the total members of each house and a majority of 2/3 of the members of each house present and voting. So special majority is nothing but at least 50% or the 2/3 majority should accept the bill passed by the Parliament in case if the Parliament is going to amend the major provisions in the Constitution. The expression total members means a total number of members comprising the house, irrespective of the fact whether they are vacancies or absentees. Okay, so even the vacancies and the absentees should also be considered into account. So taking into consideration of all these things, the majority should be, for in order to amend any constitution, the majority provisions in the Constitution, the Parliament is to adopt a majority. Special majority of Parliament. Strictly speaking, the special majority is required only for voting at the third reading stage of the bill, but by way of abundant caution, the requirement for special majority has been provided for in the rules of the House in respect of all the effective stages of bill. So like for the first and second stages, it is not necessary. Only for the third stage, it is necessary. For the voting stage, it is necessary. It is necessary. But for a abundant caution, for a precautionary caution, for the initial stage itself, the Parliament is insisting. The Parliament is getting the 2/3 majority from its members. The rules which can be amended by the provisions which can be amended by this way includes fundamental right, directive principles of state policy, all of the provisions which are not covered by first and second category. So it means that every article can be amended. Okay, even the fundamental right can be amended, directive principles of the state can be amended, all of the provisions which are not covered by the first and second category can be amended. It means everything can be amended. But you should always keep in mind that when the amendment is going to take place in fundamental right, the judiciary, the Parliament should always keep in mind that without violating the basic structure of the Constitution or without violating the fundamental right, without violating the basic structure, they can amend the Constitution. Third one is the special majority of Parliament and consent of state. So as we all know that the majority alone is not sufficient. Even the consent of state is also necessary. The consent of state is also necessary in order to pass any bill. Those provisions of the Constitution which are related to federal structure of the polity can be amended by a special majority of the Parliament and also with the consent of half of the state legislature by a simple majority. if one or small, if one or some or all remaining states can take no action on the bill, if it does not matter, the moment half of the states give their consent, the formality is completed. There is no time limit within which the state should give their consent to the bill. It means that, we are we are very much aware that we should get a two-third majority in the parliament, and the two-third majority is not it is not only the criteria to pass any, to amend any act, but even it should be approved by the state. The second part says that in case if the state is not, in case if the remaining state is silent, in case if the remaining state is not giving its consent, consent in the sense if it is silent, the parliament, it is not necessary that the parliament should consider the state which is not responding to the bill. Okay, even there is no time limit for giving consent for the bill. So it means that it is the responsibility of the state to accept the bill or to reject the bill. In case if the state is silent, the silence will not be taken into account. So amendment of, let us see about the amendment of fundamental rights. The Constitution of India, on the other hand, imposes direct limitation on fundamental rights. Courts in India cannot therefore question the property of legislation once it has been established that it is within the competency of the legislature to make such a law or in any way to modify its effect on the ground that it seeks to unduly restrict personal liberty. Although the Constitution gives the judiciary the power to review legislation repugnant to the fundamental right. So amendment can be taken place in fundamental right. The thing you should always keep in mind that without violating the basic structure of the Constitution or without violating the the amendment cannot be brought if it is unconstitutional, if it is again fundamental rights. There can be a further development in the Constitution. They can extend the Constitution fundamental right, but they cannot struck down the fundamental right which is conferred by the Constitution. The position before February 1967 was that Parliament could abrogate or abridge fundamental right by amending the Constitution. So before 1967, the Parliament is given a right to abrogate as well as abridge. They can cancel the fundamental right, even they can develop or even they can bring a development in the Constitution in the year 1967, before 1967. So before 1967, it means that before 1967, the Parliament is given enough right to abrogate the fundamental right. But when you take about the current situation, after 44th Amendment in the Constitution, you cannot abrogate the fundamental right. You can bring a further development in the fundamental right, but you cannot abrogate the fundamental right. You cannot abridge or abrogate the fundamental right. So the position before February 1967 was the Parliament could abrogate or abridge fundamental right by amending the Constitution under the provision of Article 368 and thereby override the unwholesome decision of the judiciary simply by securing the special majority. Even though if the bill gets a simple majority, even though if the bill gets a special majority, it cannot now it cannot be amended without by affecting the basic structure of the Constitution. So let us see how many what is the first amendment taken place in the Constitution. The first amendment to the Constitution was taken place in the year 1951, was necessitated with a view of overriding a series of decisions rendering by the Supreme Court, and that's to say the Zamindari Abolishment Act from judicial scrutiny. It means that in the year 1951, Zamindari system was abolished by the judiciary. I hope you're all aware of Zamindari system. So Zamindari system is nothing but Zamindar will be holding the he'll be holding the lump sum of land. Even it can be an agricultural land, and everybody will be working under the zamindar, and he'll be paying for the workers. So the zamindari system was abolished in the year 1951. That was the first amendment taken place in the constitution. The fourth amendment was enacted to render the question of reasonable compensation for acquisition of estate. So before Fourth Amendment, there was no procedure relating to compensation for the acquisition of the estates, acquisition of the land. After the Fourth Amendment, the Constitution brought a concept that in case if the land is if it is acquired by the land, the landowner should be paid a compensation, should be given a reasonable compensation. For the Fourth Amendment was enacted to render the question of reasonable compensation for acquisition of estate as reasonable, justiciable. In 1961 and 1963, the Supreme Court declared that the Kerala and Madras Land Reformation Act, which provided for a ceiling on land holding, were not in the favor of common good. The validity of this amendment was questioned in the Supreme Court through a series of writ petitions. In Kesavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala, the court revised the Golaknath case statement by upholding the validity of the 24th Amendment and thereby restored the supremacy of Parliament in regard to legislation on fundamental right, a position that existed prior 1967. So 1967, like it was stated as it is one of the fundamental right to get a compensation for the acquired land. But in the Golaknath versus the Union of India, it has been challenged that like in case if anybody is holding a lump sum of property, even it is not necessary to provide a compensation. This thing was challenged in Golaknath versus State of Union of India. But the court also ruled that Parliament cannot alter the basic structure or framework of the Constitution. So amendment can be brought to any act, but without to any article, but without altering the basic structure of the Constitution. The 34th Amendment was enacted in 1974. Put out the pale of judicial review a bunch of laws designed to alter the structure of ownership of agricultural land and tenurial relation. And in the 34th Amendment in the year 1974, a judicial review concept was brought into the Constitution. I hope you're all you're clear with the amendment procedure. Let us move on to the emergency provision. I hope this is the right time to talk about the emergency provisions, because we are all aware that right now we are in emergency, a proclamation of emergency. So emergency can be declared by the President of India in case if there is any armed rebellion, or in case if any threat to the country, even though if it is going to be a financial threat, even though if it is if anything relating to health or any aggression, the president he can proclaim emergency in the state. So that is what we are following in the current period. Emergency means a situation in which there is a failure of governance system. So in case if it is going to lead, if the emergency going to lead, in case like if it is in case if the Parliament fails to proclaim emergency in the country, if it leads to a failure of governance system, the Parliament has the right. The Parliament has the right to declare an emergency provision in the country. So emergency means a situation in which there is a failure of governance system and which calls for an immediate action to be taken so that the appropriate steps can be taken timely to tackle such situation. Okay. So in order to tackle the situation, like you can take about COVID-19 also. So in order to tackle the situation, we are under 144 in order to tackle the situation. situation. What situation the government is going to tackle? The thing is like you can stop spreading the disease. So this is the step. These are all the steps will be taken by the government in order to fight against any threat to the country. So they can take any timely decision in order to tackle the situation. In an emergency, the central takes control over all powers relating to decision making in order to ensure that speedy remedies are provided for the situation which has arisen. Even it is the duty of the parliament to take immediate action against the threat to the country, and it is the duty of the government to provide a speedy remedy to the country. In case just take it for example. In case if the government is announcing 144 after a great increase of COVID-19, there is no use of declaring emergency provisions in the country. There is no use of declaring 144 in the country. So in order to stop everything in the initial stage, it is the duty of the government to declare emergency provision in the beginning stage itself in order to stop or in order to give remedies for the state as well as to the country to escape from the threat. Thus, it can be laid down, it can be said that while the emergency is imposed in India, it becomes a unitary form of government for the period of emergency. So once the emergency is declared in the country, declared in the state, the entire state gets into the control of the union. It gets into the control of union government. Okay. In India, the makers of the constitution had realized that some situations may arise in the future in which there will be need of such provisions, and therefore they had adopted this provision in the constitution to ensure that India would be ready for such situation. Okay, everything is a well-planned provision. So you can say that it is a well-planned. It is a pre-planned provisions that the writers are aware that the country. In case if the country face any emergency in the country, in case if there is any emergency threat to the country, the provision is giving a right to the president, to the union government, to declare emergency provision. So emergency can be used for solving the grave problem. Who can proclaim emergency? You should please keep in mind that only the head of the state, the president, can alone declare emergency in the state by getting a consent from the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So after it is approved by the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, the president can declare emergency provisions in the country. So the president of India, who is the head of the state, is provided with the authority to declare emergency during the situation of crisis. But the president cannot proclaim the emergency at any time. It is required under the constitution that he can do so only when communication about proclaiming emergency is made to him in writing by the Union Cabinet, which also includes the Prime Minister of India, and only when such communication is made, then the president then only the president proclaim emergency. Like the president cannot declare emergency of his own. He should get a written communication from the cabinet ministry, which includes the Prime Minister of India and also the cabinet ministry. He should get a written communication from the cabinet ministry. Only based upon the written communication made by the cabinet ministry, he can declare emergency provision in the country. In case of declaring such emergency in a state, it should be communicated to him in writing by the governor of that state to declare emergency. If the president is going to declare emergency for a particular state, even it should be communicated by the governor of that particular state in order to declare emergency provisions in the country. Let us see about national emergency. So what we are facing is national emergency. COVID-19 is the national emergency right now we are facing. The national emergency, the provision for national emergency is provided under the Article 352 of the Constitution. The national emergency deals with constitutional provisions to be applied whenever there is an extraordinary situation that may threaten the peace, security, stability, and governance of the country or a part thereof. It is not that the aggression should it should be for the entire country, even if it is for the particular state. The president is having the right to declare emergency. He can proclaim emergency for that particular state alone. Article 352 says that when there is a war, when there is an external aggression, or in case if there is internal rebellion, the president is having the right to declare emergency provision for the country. In case Article 352 says that if the president is satisfied with the upcoming threat, or if the president is satisfied with the communication made by the cabinet ministry, he should declare emergency. So Article 352 says that if the president is satisfied that a grave emergency exists whereby the security of India or any part of it is threatened due to outside aggression or armed rebellion, he may make a proclamation to that effect regarding whole of India or part thereof. However, subclass 3 says that the president can make such proclamation only upon the written advice of the Union Cabinet. Such a proclamation must be placed before each House of Parliament and must be approved by each house with 1 month of the declaration of the proclamation. Otherwise, it will expire. So the first thing is like the Article 352 says about the emergency provision. In case if the president is satisfied with a grave emergency, he can declare emergency provision. He can proclaim emergency for the country. And subclass 3 says that even the satisfaction of the president alone is not sufficient. The cabinet ministry should make a communication to the president in order to declare emergency in the country. And cabinet ministry should also place the bill before the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and that bill should be declared. That bill should be approved within 1 month from the date of written communication. Otherwise, it should be accepted within 1 month. If it is not accepted within 1 month, it should the proclamation, otherwise it will expire. So the written communication made by the cabinet ministry will expire. So it should be noted herein that in explanation of Article 352, it is provided that for proclamation of emergency, it is not necessary that external aggression or armed rebellion has actually happened. It is not that only external aggression and armed rebellion should be the main cause for the in order to proclaim emergency. Even if there is any threat, or even if there is any threat relating to health, or even if there is any threat relating to a hung state, the president is having the right to declare emergency in the country. So in the case of Minerva Mills versus Union of India, it has been held that there is no bar of a judicial review of the validity of proclamation of emergency issued by the president under Article 352. However, court's power is limited only to examine whether the limitation conferred by the Constitution have been observed or not. It can check if the satisfaction of the president is valid or not. If the satisfaction is based on malified or absurd or irrelevant ground, it is no satisfaction at all. So procedure, let us see about the procedure for declaring proclamation in the state. A proclamation can be made by a proclamation can be made by the president of the country, but there are some provision. There are some provision for that too. The president can declare such an emergency only if the cabinet recommends in writing to do so. Such a proclamation of emergency has to be approved by both the houses of parliament by absolute majority of the total membership of the house, as well as two-third majority of members present and voting within 1 month. Otherwise, the proclamation ceases to operate. In case the Lok Sabha stands dissolved at the time of a proclamation of emergency or is not in session, it has to be approved by Rajya Sabha within 1 month and later on by the Lok Sabha within 1 month of the start of its next session. So, in case if the Lok Sabha is not in session, if the bill is approved by the Rajya Sabha within 1 month or within 1 month, the Lok Sabha should give assent for the bill passed by the Parliament. Once approved by the Parliament, the emergency remains in force for a period of 6 months. So the duration of the emergency is only for the 6 months. The president is having the right to declare an emergency only for 6 months. Based upon the need, it can be extended up to 3 years with certain by following special conditions. Once approved by the Parliament, the emergency remains in force for a period of 6 months from the date of proclamation. In case it is to be extended beyond 6 months, another prior resolution has to be passed by the Parliament. In this way, such emergency continues indefinitely. Okay. So the maximum duration, we will see that in the upcoming slides. But the maximum duration for the for the proclamation period is only can be 3 years. But the first it can be for the 6 months based upon the resolution passed. Based upon the resolution by the further resolution, it can be extended for 6 more. It can be even extended for 1 year, and the 1 year can also be extended up to 3 years. So the ground for proclamation of emergency. National emergency is imposed due to war, these things we have seen. Revocation of proclamation. So prior to 44th Amendment, proclamation of emergency once approved by both houses of parliament could be revoked by the president by making a fresh proclamation. In case if a fresh proclamation is made by the president, the old, the existing proclamation leads to revocation. Thus, the executive was the sole judge to decide as to whether the proclamation should be revoked. In other words, once approved by Parliament, emergency could remain in force indefinitely. That is, so long as the executive wanted to continue. There was no provision for a periodical review by Parliament every 6 months. So this was the scenario before 44th Amendment. Okay, in case if the president is declaring any proclamation in the country, he can announce indefinitely without mentioning the time or without mentioning the time period. He can announce a proclamation in the country. But after 44th Amendment, a proclamation may be revoked by the president by making a subsequent proclamation. So when there is a subsequent proclamation made by the president, the first proclamation leads to revocation. Secondly, the 44th Amendment requires a periodical review. Before that, there was no periodical review. But after 44th Amendment, the periodical review concept was brought into the Constitution, which says that it should be reviewed within the period of 6 months. So it should be reviewed within the period of 6 months. Secondly, the 44th Amendment. Secondly, the 44th Amendment requires a periodical review every 6 months of the proclamation by both the houses of parliament. Thirdly, the president shall The president shall revoke the proclamation of emergency if the Lok Sabha passes a resolution disapproving the proclamation or its continuance in force. For this, a notice in writing signed by not less than 1/3 of the total members of the Lok Sabha is needed. So, in case if the Lok Sabha in writing is communicating to the president that this proclamation should not be continued thereafter, they can write a written communication to the president by getting at least 1/10 from the total members of the Lok Sabha. Let us see about the consequences of proclamation of emergency. Effect of proclamation of emergency. Notwithstanding anything in this constitution, the executive power of the state shall extend to the giving of direction to any state. So the union can give, as we all know that there are three lists: union list, concurrent list, and state list. So based upon the concurrent list, the union government is having the right to give direction to the state to follow the instruction given by or to follow the decision taken by the union government. So notwithstanding anything in the constitution, the executive power of the union shall extend to the giving of direction to any state as to the manner in which the executive power of thereof is to be exercised. The union parliament acquires the power to legislate on any subject, including in the state list, Article 353. But such emergency legislation ceases to have any effect of the expiry of 6 months after the proclamation ceases to operate. The direction given by the executive power, I mean the union executive, stands only for the 6 months. In case if the proclamation is extended thereof after the 6 months, the direction can be followed by the state government. Again, it may be noted that the lawmaking power of the state is now suspended during the emergency. You should keep in mind that the lawmaking power is suspended because the state government, I mean the union government, can alone take any decision for the state. So here the power of the state government to make any laws is suspended here. The state can make law, but it is subjected to the overriding powers of the union parliament. In Article 354 provides for acquisition of powers by union executive relating to distribution of revenue. While a proclamation of emergency is in operation, life of parliament can be extended by law for a period not exceeding 1 year at a time and not exceeding in case beyond a period of 6 months after the proclamation ceases to be operate. So the period is 1 year, 6 months to 1 year, and it cannot be extended thereof. Effect on fundamental right. Okay, in case if the proclamation is, if the emergency is proclaimed in the country, what is the consequences, what is the effect on the fundamental right? That is what Article 358 and 359 says. So as soon as, like we are going to see before the amendment and after the amendment, as soon as the emergency is proclaimed on the ground of war or external aggression, all the freedoms guaranteed by Article 19 are automatically suspended. So now Article 19 cannot be suspended. This is before the amendment, but now after the 44th amendment, Article 19 cannot be suspended at any cost. So Article 358 makes it clear that in case of a proclamation under 352, Article 19 shall not restrict the power of the state to make any law or to take any executive action abridging or taking away the fundamental right guaranteed by Article 19. So Article 19 is nothing but right to freedom of speech and expression. So before 44th amendment, the fundamental right can also be like in case if there is any national emergency, there will be an impact on the fundamental right. Your fundamental right will also be suspended even though if it is Article 19. But Article 358 clearly says that Article 19 shall not like the state government is not having the right to restrict Article 19. So Article 19 shall not restrict the power of the state to make any law or to take any executive action abridging or taking away the fundamental right. So before that, before 44, the state were given a right to abridge the fundamental right. But after 44, so we are seeing the before 44th Amendment. So the state is having the right to abridge the fundamental right, even though if it is Article 19. So other than that, all the fundamental rights are suspended. But let's see the next thing. It may be noted that 44th Amendment excluded the ground of armed rebellion. Thus, if emergency is declared on the ground, freedom guaranteed by Article 19 cannot be suspended. So, before 44th Amendment, Article 19 can be suspended. Article 358 gives a power to the state to suspend the fundamental right. Article 19, right to freedom of expression can also be suspended by the state. But after 44th Amendment, the Article 19 cannot be suspended by the state as well as by the union government. Further, the amendment made it clear that Article 358 will only protect emergency laws from being challenged in a court of law and no other law which are not relating to the emergency. So only fundamental right, I mean Article 19 alone will not be suspended. Other than that, the fundamental right will be suspended during the emergency period. Article 359 says that, Article 359 subclause 1 lays down that where a proclamation of emergency in the operation, the president may by order declare that the right to move any court for the enforcement of such of the right conferred by part 11, except Article 20, no conviction except violation of 20. So except 20, Article 20 and 21, you can approach the court in order to enforce the fundamental right. As may be mentioned in the order, all proceedings pending in any court for the I'll tell you about Article 20 and 21 later. Pending in any court for the enforcement of the right, so mentioned shall remain suspended for the period during which the proclamation is in force, or for such shorter period as may be specified in the order. Thus, the president has the power to suspend the right to move court for the enforcement of any of the fundamental right, except Article 20 and 21 for a period not exceeding the proclamation of emergency. So the president has power to suspend the fundamental right, even a fundamental right of approaching the court, but except Article 20 and 21. Article 20 and 21 says that Article 20 is about when no person can be deprived of his personal liberty. So when his personal liberty is violated, he can approach the court. The president is not having the right to suspend his fundamental his right. And no person and Article 21 says, Article 20 says that he cannot be convicted for any offense other than violating the fundamental right. So he cannot be punished in case if he has not violated the fundamental right. That is what Article 20 and 21 says. So in case except this 20 and 21, the president is having the right to suspend the right to move to court. So the main difference between Article 358 and 359 is that this thing we'll see later due to time constraint. So Article 355 says about it is the duty of the state to protect its people. So Article 355 lays down that it shall be the duty of union to protect every state against external aggression and internal disturbance, and to ensure that the government of every state is carried in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. So it is the duty of the union, as well as it is the duty of the state, as well as it is the duty of the state to protect its citizen from external aggression. So the it is the duty that the union as well as the state should proclaim emergency, proclaim emergency in the state in case if there is any threat to the country. Okay. Power of union executive to issue direction and the effect of non-compliance. So in case if the state government is not following the direction given by the state government, I mean by the union government, um, in case of the direction is not complied by the union government, the state government, the union government is having the right to uh, take the state in its power. So it can take the control over the state. In case like if any particular order is issued by this union government, in case if the state government is not following the direction or the order given by the union, the union government uh, can take over the control, uh, can take the control over the state. So remaining things we will see in the upcoming session. Thank you so much.